What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another search engine optimization tip video. In today's tip video, I'm going to go over best practices for making your URLs SEO friendly. So in a nutshell, creating SEO friendly URLs follows a couple of different best practices. And URLs, in the grand scheme of ranking on Google, are considered one ranking factor when Google is determining if your content should rank for specific queries on the search engine's results pages. So I'm going to run through a couple tips that you should keep in mind as you're crafting URLs for your website. The first is that you want to make sure that your URL includes the primary keyword that your web page is trying to target or go after. So as a quick example, I did this query for SEO guide, and you can see that the URLs in the top competitors all have some variation of SEO guide in the URL string. So making sure that you're targeting that primary keyword and that you're including it within your URL is important. The second tip is to try to keep your URLs short. So like I mentioned, a few of these guides have pretty simple and concise URLs that are about 3 to 5 words. And this helps Google better understand the intent of your page because it's targeting that primary keyword and there's not a bunch of gump that's clogging your URL in the form of like a lot of unnecessary keywords or longer URLs that are maybe 10, 15 words. This also helps from a user experience standpoint because when users are looking at the URL for your page, having a shorter URL kind of better conveys the messaging of what your page is all about. And it can even influence click-through rate on the Google search results pages because they can quickly at a glance see what your page is about based on your URL string. Another best practice for shorter URLs is making sure that you're not including dates. Not only does this eat up a lot of character space in the URL, but if you're going back and updating content in the future, it can make it difficult to do so as far as conveying relevancy to the user, simply because the outdated URL date is included alongside your content. So then you'd have to recreate the new URL and then redirect the old one to the new one. It's just a bunch of hassle that you could just simply avoid by not including dates in the URL string. You also want to make sure that your URLs include hyphens, and they also avoid special characters or underscores, simply because a lot of search engines don't understand what special characters are, and they have a hard time parsing underscores in the URL strings. So you definitely want to make sure that you're hyphenating spaces between words. And another example too is making sure that you are, again, spacing out words with hyphens, simply because this is considered a totally different URL compared to when you add those hyphens. And Google will view that as one word when it's not hyphenated like that. And so it's just a slush of random word jargon that's not even an actual word. So that will confuse Google when it's parsing through your web pages and looking at the URL as part of its algorithm. A couple of other quick tips. You also want to make sure that you're avoiding using URL parameters. So, unlike e-commerce websites, this is fine, mainly because a lot of folks will be including, different filters to find inventory on your listings. But the only caveat is that you'd have to include things like canonical tags or request that these pages are no indexed, simply because Google will view this parameter as a unique URL, even if the content is totally the same between vehicle search results, and then the same page with the URL parameter string. And this is bad practice because when Google will view multiple page variants like this, because they have the exact same content on those pages, Google will consider that to be duplicate content. And this will overall hurt your keyword rankings because Google does not like duplicate content. And it confuses them because there are multiple pages with the exact same content, which URL should rank in the search results. And in some cases, it may choose to not show any of your pages or a given query, which again will hurt your overall keyword rankings for the page. And one last quick tip, or actually I have a couple more. When it comes to URL variants, for example, if you have a trailing slash at the end of this URL, Google will consider this to be again, a unique page. It doesn't view this and this to be separate pages. And so you want to make sure that you only have one accessible URL string to users. So getting rid of things or 3-1 redirecting, like if someone adds a trailing slash, redirecting to this root URL, or looking at like HTTPS www dot, making sure that redirects. And you also want to make sure that your URLs are encrypted with this HTTPS. Again, Google will consider HTTP to be a different page entirely or a unique URL. But it's also best practice to ensure that your website is loaded on a encryption just to protect your user information, especially if you're handling sensitive information like credit cards or like social security numbers on your website. And HTTPS is another small ranking factor that Google considers when ranking websites in its search engine. Other than that, that's pretty much the rundown as far as best practices when it comes to outlining your URL structure for your website. If you found this tip video to be helpful, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next search engine optimization tip video.